when aliens discovered humans were real and truly dangerous. Commander Bora stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, watching the stars through the wide viewing screen. She had served the Galactic Coalition for 20 years, exploring the empty spaces between civilized worlds. In all that time, she had never encountered anything truly dangerous. The universe was a peaceful place. The Coalition had made sure of that. "Commander, we're receiving a signal," said from the pilot's station. His long fingers moved across the control panel with practiced ease. "It's a distress beacon, very old design, not in our database." Bora walked closer, her curiosity rising. The Coalition kept records of every ship design from all 847 member worlds. If something wasn't in the database, it meant one of two things. Either it was ancient beyond measure, or it came from somewhere unknown. "Where is it coming from?" she asked. Pointed at the screen. A small star system appeared, unmarked on any Coalition map. The outer rim of the Orion Arm. Nobody lives out there. It's too far from the trade routes. The chief engineer looked up from his station. He had been Bora's friend since their academy days. "We should report it and move on. Protocol says we don't investigate unknown signals without backup." Bora knew he was right, but something pulled at her. What if someone needed help? The Coalition's first law was to help those in need. "We'll take a quick look," she decided. "If it's dangerous, we'll leave immediately." The ship changed course. The young joined them on the bridge. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "Do you think it could be a new species? Maybe someone who doesn't know about the Coalition?" "That's impossible," said. "We've mapped this entire section of the galaxy. There's nobody out here." But as they entered the system, they found something impossible. A ship floated in the darkness, damaged and silent. Its design was brutal and efficient, nothing like the elegant vessels of Coalition worlds. Weapons covered its hull, massive cannons and missile ports that violated a dozen peace treaties. The armor was thick, from battles that must have been fierce. "What kind of species builds a ship like this?" whispered. Bora felt a cold sensation in her chest. She had heard stories as a child, legends told to scare young ones into behaving. Stories about a mythical species from a death world, creatures so violent and dangerous that the ancient Coalition had to seal them away. But those were just stories, weren't they? "Scan for life signs," she ordered. Worked quickly. "I'm detecting 2 life forms. They're in some kind of sleep chambers. Their biology is strange, high-density bone structure, intense muscle development. They evolved under heavy gravity." "How heavy?" asked. "1 full gravity, maybe more." Everyone on the bridge fell silent. Most Coalition species evolved under 0.4 to 0.6 gravity. 1 full gravity would crush them. What kind of world produced creatures that could walk under such pressure? "Should we leave them?" asked quietly. Bora thought about it. Every instinct told her to run, but she was a Coalition officer. Her duty was clear. "Bring them aboard, take them to medical. We'll wake them carefully." The transfer took 2 hours. The strange ship was old, its systems barely functioning. Inside, they found evidence of a long journey, star charts marking systems the Coalition had never heard of, supplies for decades of travel, and weapons. So many weapons. Supervised the awakening process. She had studied hundreds of alien species, but these creatures fascinated and frightened her. They were tall, even taller than most Coalition species. Their bodies were dense with muscle, built for strength and endurance. Their hands had 5 fingers, each capable of tremendous grip force. "I'm bringing the first one out of sleep," she announced. The chamber opened with a hiss. The creature inside stirred, then opened its eyes. They were brown, warm, and very aware. The creature sat up slowly, looking around the medical bay with obvious confusion. "Hello," said, activating her translation device. "Don't be afraid, you're safe. We found your ship." The creature focused on her. Then it spoke. The translation matrix took a moment to process the language, but then the words came through clearly. "Where am I? What happened to our ship?" "You're aboard a Coalition vessel," explained. This is Commander Bora, an engineer. What's your name?" The creature said. He looked at his hands, then at them. "How long was I asleep?" "We don't know. Your ship's logs are damaged. Can you tell us where you're from?" Stood up. The medical bay's gravity was set to standard 0.5, but he moved easily as if it were nothing. "Earth. We left Earth 200 years ago. Colony mission to a new system, but something went wrong. Spatial anomaly. The ship was damaged. We went into sleep until rescue could arrive." "Earth," Bora repeated. She felt her blood turn cold. "That's not possible." "Why not?" asked. "Because Earth is a myth," said. "A legend. A scary story about a death world where monsters evolved." Stared at them. Then, to their surprise, he laughed. It was a warm sound, but it held an edge. "Monsters? Is that what you think we are?" "I didn't mean," started. "No, it's fine," said. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. I suppose from your perspective we might seem that way. Earth is a heavy gravity world. We have predators, whether that can kill. Earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes. We evolved to survive all of it. Approach carefully. Your ship has weapons, many weapons. Why? Protection, said simply. Space is dangerous. We've encountered hostile phenomena, asteroids, radiation storms. We built our ships to survive anything. But weapons, missiles, kinetic cannons, Bora asked. Turned to face them. His expression was serious now. Have you never had to fight, never had to defend yourselves? The coalition has been at peace for 10,000 cycles, Bora said. War is forbidden. Conflict is resolved through negotiation. That sounds wonderful, said. We tried that too. On Earth we fought wars for thousands of years, terrible wars. We almost destroyed ourselves, but we learned, we grew. We still have militaries, yes, but we haven't had a major war in 300 years. 300 years, said. That's nothing, we've had peace for 10,000. Maybe your species is different from ours, said quietly. They woke the second human an hour later. She was a scientist, and she asked careful questions about coalition technology and culture. Both humans seemed friendly, even gentle, but there was something about them that set Bora's instincts on edge. They moved with confidence. Their eyes tracked movement with predator precision. When they spoke about their home world, they described a place of constant challenge and adaptation. How many humans are there? Bora finally asked. On Earth, about 12 billion, said casually. 12 billion, Bora felt dizzy. That's more than 20 coalition worlds combined. We're a successful species, said with a smile. We have 40 colony worlds now, maybe 50. It's been 200 years for us in sleep, so I don't know the current count. Bora exchanged looks with. The implications were staggering. Humans weren't a myth. They were real. They were numerous. And they had been expanding through space for centuries, completely unknown to the coalition. We need to contact Coalition Command, whispered. Right now. Bora nodded. She looked at the two humans who seemed so friendly and helpful, but she had seen their ship. She had seen their weapons. She had heard about their world. The universe had just become a much more dangerous place. And the Galactic Coalition had no idea what was coming. When aliens discovered humans were real and truly dangerous. The emergency session of the High Council lasted 3 days. Representatives from all major coalition species gathered on Velar Prime, the capital world where decisions affecting 847 civilized planets were made. The massive chamber buzzed with worried voices as First Speaker Velen called for order. Bora stood before them, presenting her report. Holographic images of the human ship floated above the council floor, showing every weapon system, every armored plate, every design choice that violated coalition peace treaties. This cannot be real, one council member insisted. The Death World species is a myth. Everyone knows this. I assure you it's real, Bora said firmly. I have spoken with 2 humans. They are friendly and intelligent, but their entire civilization is built around the concept of survival through strength. First Speaker Velen, an elderly being with silver skin and wise eyes, studied the images carefully. How many of them are there? Billions, Bora replied, spread across dozens of worlds. They have been exploring space for 300 of their years. They have never encountered us because they expanded in a different direction. And what do they want? Another council member asked. They want to go home, Bora said, but now they know we exist. Eventually our civilizations will meet in full. The council erupted in debate. Some wanted to immediately quarantine human space, building barriers to keep them contained. Others argued for peaceful contact and integration. A few, mostly from the security branches, suggested something that hadn't been considered in 10,000 years, preemptive military action. First Speaker Velen raised his hand for silence. We are the Galactic Coalition. We do not make war. We do not attack the innocent. We will send a diplomatic mission to make proper first contact with these humans. He turned to a distinguished-looking being in formal robes. You studied the ancient human legends as part of your cultural research. You will lead this delegation. Bowed respectfully. He was the coalition's finest diplomat, having successfully negotiated peace agreements on 100 worlds. But as he studied the images of human weapons, he felt something he had never experienced before: doubt. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks aboard the coalition flagship Harmony's Promise. Spent every day interviewing and trying to understand human culture and psychology. What he learned disturbed him deeply. Humans had concepts the coalition didn't understand. They played games called sports, where they competed violently against each other for entertainment. They watched movies and shows depicting war, death, and conflict. Their children played with toy weapons and pretended to fight. "Why do you enjoy violence?" asked one day. Looked surprised by the question. "We don't enjoy violence. We enjoy competition, testing ourselves, growing stronger. It's how we're built." "But you celebrate warriors," pressed. "Your history honors those who fought in wars." "We honor those who protected others," corrected gently. "Yes, we have warriors, but we also have teachers, doctors, and artists. We're not simple creatures. We contain multitudes." Studied them carefully. Both humans seemed kind. They smiled often. They helped the crew with tasks. They were patient with questions. But underneath that friendly surface, he sensed something coiled and ready. Joined them for dinner one evening. She had been running medical tests on the humans with their permission. "Your biology is remarkable," she told them. "You have a hormone called adrenaline. When threatened, your body releases it, making you stronger and faster. You can ignore pain temporarily. You heal from injuries quickly. Your immune system fights off diseases that would kill most species." "That's just how we evolved," said with a shrug. "Earth isn't gentle. Our bodies adapted to survive." "I also noticed your teeth," continued carefully. "You have canines, sharp teeth for tearing meat." "We're omnivores," explained. "We eat plants and animals. Is that unusual?" "Most coalition species eat only plants or processed nutrients," said. "The idea of killing another creature for food is disturbing to us." And exchanged glances. "We don't think about it that way," said. "It's just food, part of the natural cycle." Made notes on everything. The more he learned, the more concerned he became. These creatures were predators wearing civilized masks. How could the coalition integrate a species like this? When they finally arrived at Earth's solar system, fears deepened. The system was a fortress. Defense platforms surrounded every planet and major moon. Satellites covered orbital space in layers. Sensors tracked their ship from the moment they entered the system, and warships, hundreds of them, maintained patrol routes throughout inhabited zones. A human voice came through their communication system. "Unidentified vessel, this is Admiral of Earth Defense Force. State your intentions." Activated his own communicator. "I am, representing the Galactic Coalition. We come in peace to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity." There was a pause, then his voice joined the channel. "Admiral, this is from the colony ship New Horizons. These aliens rescued us. They're friendly." "Welcome home," Admiral replied, her voice warming slightly. Then more formally, "Coalition vessel, you are cleared to approach Earth. Maintain your current speed and trajectory. Any deviation will be considered hostile." Who was monitoring their sensors, whispered to Bora, "Commander, I'm reading the power signatures on those defense platforms. Any one of them could destroy our entire ship in seconds." "How many platforms are there?" Bora asked. "Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. This isn't a home system. It's a military installation disguised as one." The shuttle landed at Earth United Government headquarters in a city called Geneva, led a small delegation that included Bora and several coalition officials. They were escorted by human soldiers in formal uniforms, carrying weapons that seemed ceremonial but suspected were fully functional. Earth's gravity pressed down on them. Even at 90% standard, it felt oppressive. The humans walked easily, hardly noticing what strained the coalition representatives with every step. Premier greeted them in a grand hall with high ceilings and windows showing Earth's blue sky. He was an older human with gray hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. He smiled warmly and shook hands with each of them, a human gesture of greeting. "Welcome to Earth," he said. "We're honored to meet representatives of the Galactic Coalition. We had no idea we weren't alone out here." "The pleasure is ours," replied, activating his translation device. "We have much to discuss." The negotiations began cordially. Presented the coalition's basic principles: peace, cooperation, shared resources, and most importantly, complete demilitarization. No species in the coalition maintained military forces. Conflicts were resolved through mediation and diplomacy. Premier listened carefully, then he leaned back in his chair. "Those are admirable principles, but humanity cannot agree to complete disarmament." "It is required for all coalition members," explained patiently. "For 10,000 years, we have proven that peace is possible without weapons." "For 10,000 years, you've been lucky," said quietly. "You haven't faced a true threat. We have. On Earth, we fought each other for. We learned hard lessons about what happens when you're defenseless." "But there are no threats in coalition space," insisted. "We have eliminated war entirely." "Until now," said. "We exist. We have weapons. Doesn't that make us a threat by your definition?" Felt trapped by the logic. "You could choose peace. You could join us and disarm." "We could," agreed. "But we won't. Our history taught us that peace must be defended. We will gladly be friends with the coalition. We'll trade, share knowledge, and work together. But we will never give up our ability to protect ourselves." Another human at the table, a woman named who served as chief science advisor, spoke up. Ambassador, what happens if someone refuses to follow coalition law? It has never happened, said. But theoretically, pressed. The coalition would encourage compliance. How asked? You have no military, no way to enforce your laws, so what do you do? Realized he had no good answer. The coalition had never needed enforcement because everyone agreed to follow the rules. But what if someone didn't? We would negotiate, he said finally. And if negotiation failed, asked. Said nothing. Premier stood, signaling the meeting was ending. Ambassador, I can see you're troubled. Please understand we're not warlike. We don't want conflict with the coalition, but we are survivors. We will maintain our sovereignty and our defenses. I hope you can accept that. As delegation prepared to leave, pulled Bora aside privately. Her expression was serious. Commander Bora, you seem kind, so I'll give you advice. The coalition doesn't understand us. We're not monsters. We're not conquerors, but we're very, very good at defending ourselves. If your government tries to force us to disarm, it will be the worst mistake in coalition history. Is that a threat? Bora asked carefully. It's a warning, said. Please make sure your leaders understand the difference. The delegation returned to their ship in silence, sat in his quarters, reviewing his notes. The meeting had been a disaster. Humans refused to comply with coalition law. They maintained weapons that could threaten every coalition world. And worst of all, they seemed completely confident in their ability to resist any pressure. He prepared his report for the High Council with a heavy heart. First contact with humanity had failed. Now he had to recommend what should happen next. And he feared the answer would lead to something the coalition hadn't experienced in 10,000 years: war. When aliens discovered humans were real and truly dangerous. The High Council chamber on Velar Prime had never been so divided. His report spread across the holographic displays, showing every detail of his failed negotiation with humanity. First Speaker Velen looked older than his years as he listened to the heated debates. They refused our most basic requirement, Security Coordinator Rax argued, his voice rising. Complete demilitarization is not optional. It is the foundation of coalition peace. If we allow humans to keep their weapons, what message does that send to our other members? It sends the message that we respect different cultures, countered. Humans evolve differently. Their history is different. We cannot force them to abandon their survival instincts overnight. Survival instincts, Rax scoffed. They have enough weapons to threaten our entire civilization. That's not survival, that's aggression waiting to happen. Bora stood to speak, even though she was only a ship commander and not a council member. First Speaker, with permission, I spent weeks with humans. They are not aggressive. They are cautious. There is a difference. Permission granted, Velen said. Speak, Commander. The humans I met were kind and helpful, Bora continued. They laughed. They shared meals with us. They taught us about their culture. Yes, they come from a dangerous world. Yes, they maintain weapons. But in all my interactions with them, they never once threatened us. Rax turned to face her. And yet their very existence is a threat. Commander, you saw their defense platforms. You saw their warships. If they decide to expand into coalition space, what stops them? Their own moral code, Bora said firmly. They have laws, ethics. They know what war costs because they've fought wars. That's exactly why they want to avoid it. The debate continued for hours, but eventually a compromise was reached. The coalition would not force humans to disarm immediately. Instead, they would impose economic sanctions and establish a blockade around human space. Cut off from resources and expansion, humans would have no choice but to negotiate seriously. First Speaker Velen agreed reluctantly. We will maintain the blockade for 6 months. No human ships may pass. No trade may occur. This will demonstrate our seriousness without resorting to violence. Felt a sense of dread, but could not argue against the entire council. The decision was made. Coalition ships took positions at every border of human-controlled space. Hundreds of vessels formed a perimeter, ready to turn back any human ship that tried to leave. The blockade was announced formally. Humanity had 6 months to agree to coalition terms, or the restrictions would become permanent. The human response surprised everyone. Premier sent a simple message. This is unfortunate. We had hoped for friendship, but we will not be coerced. Then silence. Human ships from the border, trade with nearby systems stopped. Communications went quiet. It was as if humanity had simply accepted the blockade and retreated into their own space. See, Rax said confidently after 3 months. They're weakening. Soon they'll have no choice but to agree to our terms. But Bora wasn't so sure. She noticed something odd in the reports from blockade ships. Human vessels weren't trying to break through. They weren't testing the defenses. They were just watching, observing, learning. Still serving as her engineer agreed with her concerns. They're too quiet. If we had blockaded any coalition world, there would be protests, complaints, constant communication. But the humans? Nothing. It's like they're waiting for something. Or preparing for something, added quietly. The 6th month of the blockade arrived. Coalition Command sent formal notice that if humans didn't agree to terms within the next week, the blockade would become permanent. Still, no response came from Earth. Then came the incident that changed everything. The colony ship New Horizons appeared at the blockade perimeter without warning. It was massive, designed to carry 50,000 colonists to a newly terraformed world in human space. The ship broadcast on all frequencies, requesting passage. Commander in charge of that section of the blockade received the transmission. "This is Coalition Blockade Fleet. You are ordered to turn back. No human vessels may pass." The human captain responded calmly. "I understand your orders, Commander, but I have 50,000 people aboard, including 20,000 children. Our destination colony has limited supplies. If we don't arrive on schedule, people will suffer. Please allow us humanitarian passage." Consulted his orders. They were clear, no exceptions. Negative, turn back immediately. "Commander, please," his voice carried a note of desperation now. "These are civilians, families, children. They've been traveling for months. Just let us pass this one time." "I cannot," replied. "Orders are absolute." The New Horizons continued forward slowly. Watch it approach, his frustration building. These humans thought they could ignore coalition authority. They needed to learn respect. "Fire a warning shot across their bow," he ordered. "Show them we're serious." His weapons officer hesitated. "Sir, our weapons are designed for asteroid mining, not precision shots near ships." "I gave you an order," snapped. The shot fired. It was meant to pass harmlessly in front of the colony ship, but the New Horizons was moving faster than calculated. The energy beam struck the ship's shield generator, overloading it. The massive vessel shuddered. Emergency systems activated. And in 3 compartments, life support failed for 43 seconds before backup systems engaged. When life support returned, 15 colonists were dead, 7 adults and 8 children. Captain's voice came back over the communication channel. It was different now, colder. "You just killed 15 of my people, including children." "It was an accident," began. "Accident?" His voice was like ice. "You fired on a civilian vessel carrying families. You knew we were here, you knew what we were carrying, and you fired anyway." Felt panic rising. This wasn't supposed to happen. It was just a warning shot, just a message. We didn't mean." "Stand by for incoming transmission from Earth Command," said. Then the line went dead. Within minutes, every coalition ship in the blockade received the same message. Admiral's face appeared on their screens. She was in full military uniform, standing on what appeared to be a warship's bridge. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with fury. "To the Galactic Coalition, you have attacked our civilians. You have killed our children. This is an act of war. You have 48 hours to withdraw all vessels from human space and submit your government to war crimes tribunals for justice. If you do not comply, we will consider ourselves at war with the Galactic Coalition." The message ended. Silence filled the command centers of every coalition ship. Bora, aboard the Eternal Dawn at the edge of the blockade, felt her blood turn cold. She immediately contacted Coalition Command. "First Speaker Velen, you must order a withdrawal. Now, before this escalates further." "We cannot appear weak," Rax's voice came back instead. "The humans are bluffing. They cannot fight 847 worlds. Their threat is empty." "It's not a bluff," Bora shouted, protocol forgot. "I've seen their weapons, I've seen their ships. Please withdraw the fleet before it's too late." "The decision is made," Rax said coldly. "We will not be intimidated by a death world species. Let them see that the coalition does not bend to threats." A single message was transmitted to human space. One word broadcast across all channels. "No." 48 hours passed. Coalition sensors tracked increased human activity, ships moving into formation, energy signatures spiking across their space. But no attack came. Maybe Rax was right. Maybe it was all a bluff. Then 17 coalition outposts along the blockade line simply went dark. No distress signals, no weapons fire detected, they just stopped responding. Bora's ship was ordered to investigate the nearest outpost. What they found made her understand, finally, what humans truly were. The outpost was destroyed, but not by conventional weapons. The structure had been systematically dismantled, equipment salvaged or destroyed. The coalition crew was gone, taken prisoner according to emergency logs, but not harmed. Examined the damage with growing horror. "Commander, look at this. They bypassed our shields with electronic warfare, shut down every system simultaneously, then boarded using some kind of stealth technology we never detected. Found security footage. On the screens, armored human soldiers moved through the outpost with terrifying precision. They knew exactly where to go, what to disable, how to secure prisoners without injury. It was over in 6 minutes. They weren't fighting, whispered. They were hunting. Bora requested an emergency council session. When first speaker Velen's face appeared on her screen, she spoke quickly. First speaker, you must understand what we're facing. These humans aren't like us. They didn't evolve in peace. War is part of their history, their culture, their very biology. They know how to fight in ways we can't comprehend. You're saying we should surrender? Velen asked. I'm saying we should negotiate, Bora said urgently, before this becomes something worse. But it was too late. Rax had already mobilized the coalition fleet. 5,000 ships, the largest armada in galactic history, was moving toward human space. The Galactic Coalition was going to war. And Bora feared they had no idea what they had just started. When aliens discovered humans were real and truly dangerous. The Coalition fleet assembled at Velar Prime was a magnificent sight. 5,000 ships from hundreds of worlds, each vessel decorated with the symbols of their home civilizations. Crews that had trained for exploration and science now prepared for something their ancestors hadn't done in 10,000 years: war. But they trained with ancient manuals and theoretical knowledge. None of them had ever fought. None of them had ever fired weapons in anger. They didn't know what real combat felt like. Rax stood on the bridge of the fleet flagship, watching formations take shape through the viewing screen. This is history, he announced proudly. Today, the Coalition shows that we will not be threatened. Today, we remind the universe that civilization has rules. Bora watched from her ship at the edge of the formation. She had tried to convince the Council to pursue peace, but they wouldn't listen. Now she could only hope that humanity would surrender when they saw the size of the Coalition fleet. The Armada jumped into human space, arriving at a system called Alpha. According to intelligence, it was one of humanity's major colony systems, with billions of inhabitants and significant military installations. What they found was a trap. The Coalition fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, just as they had practiced. But within seconds, their sensors went haywire. Thousands of contacts appeared on their screens, missiles, drones, mines, all converging on their position. Evasive action, commanders shouted across hundreds of ships, but Coalition vessels were designed for exploration, not combat. They were large, slow, and had minimal maneuverability. The first wave of human weapons struck. Not the ships themselves, but their sensor arrays and communication systems. Electromagnetic pulses shut down electronics. Jamming signals blocked transmissions. Within minutes, the magnificent Coalition fleet was blind, deaf, and scattered. Reform the line, Rax ordered, but his orders couldn't reach most of the fleet. Their communication network was shredded. And human ships appeared. They were small, fast, and moved like predators through a herd. They didn't engage in traditional ship-to-ship combat. Instead, they targeted engines, weapons, and command centers with surgical precision. Coalition ships found themselves disabled but intact, drifting helplessly while human vessels moved on to the next target. Monitoring the battle from the eternal dawn couldn't believe what he was seeing. They're not trying to destroy us. They're trying to disable us. Every shot is perfectly aimed to cripple, not kill. Why? Asked confused. If they wanted to win, why not just destroy the fleet? Because they're trying to minimize casualties, Bora realized with shock. Even now, even after we attacked their civilians, they're trying to avoid killing us. A transmission cut through the jamming. Admiral's face appeared on Coalition screens across the battlefield. Coalition forces, this is your only warning. Power down your weapons and engines. Your crews will not be harmed. Resist, and we will be forced to continue disabling your vessels. You cannot win this engagement. Rax, his ship still functional, responded defiantly. We outnumber you 5,000 to 1. We will not surrender to a species of savages. Then you'll learn what savages can do, replied calmly, and the transmission ended. The second wave hit even harder. Human weapons that the Coalition didn't know existed tore through their formations. Kinetic projectiles moving at relativistic speeds punched through shields designed to stop energy weapons. AI-guided missiles found their targets with impossible accuracy. And human soldiers, wearing powered armor, boarded disabled ships to take control. Within 6 hours, the battle was over. Of the 5,000 Coalition ships, 4,800 were disabled or captured. 150 were destroyed when their reactors overloaded during the fighting. The remaining 50, including Bora's ship, were allowed to escape. Coalition casualties, 40,000 dead, mostly from the ships that exploded. Another 100,000 injured or taken prisoner. Human casualties, 327. Survivors limped back to Velar Prime with their terrible news. The Coalition Council assembled in emergency session, faces pale with shock. How is this possible? First Speaker Velen asked weakly. We had 5,000 ships. They had barely 300 in that system. Who had studied human culture finally understood. Because we spent 10,000 years forgetting how to fight. They spent 10,000 years perfecting it. Even during their peace they trained. They researched. They prepared for threats we couldn't imagine. They're too powerful, another council member said. We must negotiate surrender immediately. No, Rax shouted, though his voice trembled. One defeat doesn't end a war. We have 847 worlds, billions of citizens. We can. We can what? Bora interrupted, standing from her seat. Send more crews to die. We're explorers, scientists, diplomats. They're survivors from a world that tried to kill them every day. This isn't a war. It's a lesson in what happens when you threaten predators. Before Rax could respond, an urgent transmission came through. Coalition intelligence reported human fleet movements. They were heading toward Velar Prime itself. Panic spread through the council. If humans attacked the capital world, the entire coalition government could fall. But Bora remembered what it told her. Humans weren't conquerors, so what were they doing? She volunteered to take a small delegation to meet the human fleet before it arrived. First Speaker Velen agreed, having no other options. Bora's ship intercepted the human fleet at the edge of Velar Prime system. To her surprise, they were allowed to approach the flagship. She brought and with her. They were escorted to a meeting room where Admiral waited, along with Premier, Science Advisor, and a young human military officer named. Thank you for seeing us, Bora began carefully. We come to discuss terms of peace. Peace, said. You mean surrender, because that's what this usually means when one side loses so badly. We know we cannot win, admitted, his diplomatic training seeming useless now. You have proven your military superiority. What do you want from us? Tribute, territory, subjugation. Looked genuinely surprised. Is that what you think we want? We told you from the beginning we just wanted to be left alone. Then why are you here? First Speaker Velen asked via communication link. Why bring a fleet to our capital? To make sure you understand, Admiral said. We don't want your worlds. We don't want your resources. We want you to stop treating us like criminals for refusing to disarm. We want mutual respect, not dominance. Pulled up holographic displays. Look at this. These are your prisoners. We've been treating their injuries, feeding them. We've contacted their families to let them know they're safe. We're not monsters, despite what your legends say. Studied the displays with growing amazement. Human medical facilities full of coalition wounded, all receiving care. Human soldiers distributing food and supplies to prisoners. It was nothing like what she expected from a warrior species. I don't understand, she said. You could destroy us, you've proven that, why show mercy? Leaned forward, because we remember what it's like to be on the other side. Humans fought wars where neither side showed mercy. We know what that path leads to, extinction, devastation, horror. We learned to be better than that. Yes, we can fight. Yes, we're dangerous, but we choose when to use that danger and when to show compassion. Show us your classified files, said Bora. The ones about what happens if we take Velar Prime. Bora hesitated, then accessed the Coalition intelligence database. She pulled up the worst-case scenario. Human occupation of Coalition worlds, subjugation of Coalition species, the end of their civilization. Read it, then laughed bitterly. You really think we want to rule over you? We can barely govern ourselves. We have 40 colony worlds and constant political debates. Why would we want 800 more worlds to argue with us? Then what do you want? Velen asked. We want you to treat us like equals, said simply. We'll be friends, we'll trade, we'll share knowledge, but we won't disarm, we won't submit to your laws, and we won't let you blockade us ever again. Process this carefully. You're offering alliance, not conquest. We're offering partnership, clarified. The universe is big. There might be other threats out there worse than us. Wouldn't you rather have us as friends than enemies? Before anyone could answer, alarms sounded on both human and coalition ships. Long-range sensors detected something emerging from deep space, a fleet of unknown origin moving toward coalition territory. The ships were aggressive in design, and they weren't responding to hails. Analyze the data quickly. Those aren't human or coalition, they're something else, and based on their trajectory and weapon signatures. He looked up, concerned. I think you're about to meet an actual hostile species. Admiral stood, Premier, requesting permission to deploy defensive forces. To protect coalition worlds, asked. To protect our future allies, corrected. Turned to the coalition representatives. Well, do you want our help or are we still your enemies? Bora looked at her companions, then at first speaker Velen's face on the communication screen. Finally, she spoke. We would be honored to have humanity's help. And for the first time in the conflict, both sides smiled. When aliens discovered humans were real and truly dangerous. The unknown fleet continued its approach toward coalition space, and human vessels moved to intercept. Admiral coordinated with coalition forces, sharing tactical data and positioning both fleets for maximum defensive coverage. They're not responding to any communication, reported from his tactical station. Energy signatures indicate weapons charging. I think they're preparing to attack. Bora watched from her ship as human vessels formed a protective line between the unknown threat and coalition worlds. It was strange seeing the same ships that had disabled her fleet now moving to defend coalition civilians. They're really going to fight for us, said, amazement in his voice, after everything we did to them. The unknown vessels opened fire first, targeting both human and coalition ships indiscriminately. They were raiders, as it turned out, a nomadic species that attacked isolated systems for resources. They had been observing the war between humans and the coalition, waiting for both sides to weaken each other. They had made a fatal miscalculation. Human ships engaged with the same precision they had shown against the coalition, but this time they held nothing back. Without civilians to protect on the enemy side, without moral restraint, human military capability was terrifying to witness. The raider fleet was destroyed in less than an hour. When it was over, Admiral opened a channel to all coalition vessels. The threat is neutralized. All enemy ships are destroyed or disabled. Coalition worlds are secure. First speaker Velen's voice came through, heavy with emotion. Thank you. You saved countless lives today. Lives that belonged to a civilization that tried to destroy you just days ago. We know what it's like to be threatened, replied. We couldn't just watch it happen to others. 1 week later, Premier arrived on Velar Prime for formal peace negotiations. The entire High Council assembled to receive him, along with representatives from all major coalition worlds. This time, there was no talk of disarmament or forced compliance. Stood before the council, speaking calmly. The Galactic Coalition and humanity went to war because of misunderstanding and fear. You feared our weapons. We feared your restrictions. Both of us were wrong about what the other wanted. We made terrible mistakes, first speaker Velen admitted. We attacked your civilians. We started a war we couldn't win, and yet you showed mercy when you could have destroyed us. Why? Because victory without honor is just murder, said. Yes, we can fight. Yes, we can destroy, but we can also choose not to. That choice is what makes us civilized, not the absence of weapons. Who had spent months studying humanity finally understood. You're not dangerous because you have weapons. You're dangerous because you know when to use them and when not to. That's true strength. The formal treaty was signed that day. Its terms were simple. Mutual recognition of sovereignty. No forced disarmament on either side. Free trade and cultural exchange. Mutual defense pact against external threats. Reparations paid to families of the 15 civilians killed in the blockade incident. But beyond the legal terms, something more important happened. Coalition species began to see humans not as monsters from legend, but as potential friends who had much to teach. 10 years passed. The joint coalition human space station Unity orbited a neutral world at the border between the two civilizations. It served as headquarters for combined defense forces and a cultural exchange center. Bora stood in the station's observation deck, watching ships come and go. She was an ambassador now, one of the first coalition citizens to truly understand humanity. Beside her stood, who had become a liaison officer after the war. When I first met you, I was terrified, Bora admitted. Everything about humans seemed dangerous. We are dangerous, said with a slight smile. But so is a doctor's scalpel. It's not about the tool, it's about how you use it. Below them in the station's central plaza, human and coalition children played together, who now ran the station's education program, supervised with. They had become close friends over the years, their initial fear replaced by genuine respect and affection. My daughter asked me something yesterday, continued. She asked if the coalition still thinks humans are monsters. What did you tell her? Bora asked. I told her that monsters are defined by their choices, not their capabilities. Humans chose mercy over vengeance. We chose partnership over domination. That's what matters. An alarm chimed softly. Both of them looked at the display showing an incoming fleet. It was a joint patrol returning from the frontier, human destroyers flying alongside coalition research vessels. You remember what Rax said before his trial? Bora asked. Rax had been convicted of war crimes for ordering the shot that killed civilians. He was serving a sentence in a human prison, ironically treated better than most coalition facilities would have treated him. He said humans would eventually conquer us, recalled, that it was only a matter of time before our true nature showed. He still doesn't understand, Bora said. Humanity already conquered the coalition, not through weapons but through example. You showed us that strength and compassion aren't opposites. You showed us that peace isn't the absence of weapons but the presence of restraint. In Geneva on Earth, met with Premier-elect, who would soon take over leadership of Earth's government. They stood in the same meeting room where the first failed negotiation with had occurred a decade ago. The coalition wants to adopt human military training methods, said, reviewing reports. They're asking us to help them build defense forces. Are we really going to arm the same civilization we fought? We're going to teach them to defend themselves, corrected. There's a difference. After that Raider attack, they realized that the universe isn't as peaceful as they thought. They need to be able to protect themselves. And you trust them? Asked. I trust that they learned from their mistakes, said. Just like we learned from ours. We attacked each other out of fear. Now we're building something better together. At Earth's military academy, Admiral gave her final lecture before retirement. The auditorium was packed with human and coalition cadets, all training together for the Joint Defense Force. 10 years ago, she began, the coalition discovered that humans were real. They learned we came from a death world. They learned we had weapons and military forces, and they were terrified. They thought we were monsters waiting to destroy them. She paused, looking at the mixed audience. They were half right. We are dangerous. Our world made us strong, adaptable, and capable of tremendous violence. But they forgot to ask the most important question, dangerous to whom? A coalition cadet raised their hand. What question should they have asked? They should have asked, what do humans choose to protect? Answered, because that's what defines a species, not what they can destroy but what they choose to defend. She displayed images from the war. Disabled coalition ships being tended by human rescue crews, prisoners receiving medical care, human soldiers helping evacuate coalition civilians from threatened worlds. We could have killed them all, continued. We had the capability, but we didn't because strength without restraint is just barbarism. Real power is knowing you can destroy your enemy and choosing not to. Real courage is showing mercy when you don't have to. A human cadet spoke up. Admiral, why did we help the coalition after they attacked us? Because we remembered what it felt like to be afraid, said softly. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other. We know what hatred looks like. We know what vengeance costs. And we decided we didn't want to be those people anymore. When the coalition attacked us, we could have become monsters. Instead, we chose to be better than our worst impulses. She looked around the room one final time. You are the future of this alliance. Some of you were enemies a decade ago. Now you train together, fight together, protect each other. That's not weakness. That's evolution. That's choosing civilization over savagery. The class applauded, human and coalition hands clapping together in respect. On the frontier world where the first unknown raiders had been defeated, a memorial stood. It listed names from both sides, coalition crew members killed in the war, human casualties from battles and accidents, and even the names of the 15 civilians who died in the blockade incident that started everything. Stood before the memorial with, who had become his close friend over the years. They had just returned from a diplomatic mission to integrate 3 new species into the expanded Coalition Human Alliance. Do you regret it? Asked. Your first mission to Earth, if you'd been more successful in negotiating, maybe the war wouldn't have happened. I think about that often, admitted. But I also think the war taught us something we needed to learn. The Coalition believed peace came from having no weapons. We learned that real peace comes from mutual respect and the strength to defend it. Humanity believed everyone would always be a threat, added. We learned that some people are worth protecting, not fighting. They stood in silence for a moment reading the names, then smiled slightly. Your species has a saying, don't they, about turning enemies into friends? We have many sayings, said. Which one? The best way to destroy an enemy is to make them your friend. Laughed. That's the idea, and it worked, didn't it? The Coalition isn't our enemy anymore, neither are we yours. Above them in orbit, the Joint Fleet maintained its patrol. Human ships with their aggressive designs flew alongside Coalition vessels with their elegant curves. Together, they protected 887 worlds, the original 847 Coalition members plus humanity's 40 colonies. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Danger isn't defined by capability but by intent. Humans were dangerous, yes, but they were dangerous to those who threatened innocence, dangerous to tyrants, dangerous to anyone who would harm the weak. And they were the fiercest friends the Galactic Coalition had ever known. In a small classroom on the station Unity, human and coalition children sat together as their teacher, a retired soldier named, told them the story of first contact. Why did the coalition think humans were monsters? A young coalition child asked. Because we looked different and acted different, explained. They came from peaceful worlds where nothing ever threatened them. We came from Earth, where everything tried to kill us. They didn't understand that being able to fight doesn't mean you want to fight. Did humans want to conquer the coalition? A human child asked. No, said firmly. We just wanted to be left alone to live our own way. But when we had to fight, we fought to end it quickly with as few casualties as possible. That's the human way. If peace is impossible, win fast and be merciful in victory. What happened to the humans in coalition after? Another child asked. Smiled and gestured to the window, where both species worked side by side on the station. Look around you. That's what happened. We learned that different doesn't mean enemy. We learned that the strongest civilizations are built on cooperation, not domination. And we learned that the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't a species with weapons, it's a species without friends. The children nodded, understanding in their own way what it had taken their parents' generation a war to learn. The universe was vast and often dangerous. But together, humans and the coalition faced it not as the monsters from legend, but as allies who understood that true strength meant protecting each other. And that made all the difference.